is.
Yep. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and I guess it's recording. So, all right. I'm also gonna take a second to do like a little bit of an update on my life before I cut to you. So just chill for a minute. So, welcome to this episode of Brews, Beards, and Shipwrecks. I'm your host, Chunjay of Royal Ruckus, also known as Jamey Bennett, and I have been absent for a very long time, and I apologize. We finally dropped an episode the other day. Hopefully you saw it and got to check it out. We've got all kinds of stuff up our sleeves, but one thing is that we have not been posting anything in a freaking year. But I'm back. And I wanted to just say I appreciate those of you who are still subscribers. Tell your friends. Still trying to get the word out about the show. But we have some really exciting things. I'm actually more excited about the show than I have been since the very beginning. So I want to, without further ado, actually, I was going to talk a little bit more about myself, but maybe I'll save that for the next episode. I want to introduce my friend, Nomadik Vagabond. What's going on, man?
Nada, man. Just, COVID chilling.
That's right. This is like, I think, the first official episode I'm recording remotely with anyone.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, as far as of Brews, Beers, and Shipwrecks, right?
Right.
They've all been sitting down in person with a Zoom microphone in between us. That was the only thing I knew Zoom was until the pandemic.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh no, there's actually Zoom meetings.
Yeah, exactly. Which could be an email.
Yeah, exactly. So introduce your well, no, don't introduce yourself too much, but just give us a little bit. Tell us your real name. Tell us why. No, I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I? I'm terrible. I'm the worst host in the freaking world.
Nah.
So here's the real deal. The real deal is I have brought you on to join this show that is already in progress and to bring a little new life into it. And so I should actually take a minute to explain why I wanted to bring you in and who I think you are and why that matters to bringing you in. So the first thing I want to say is, I don't know you well. I've been getting to know you. So the things that I'm about to say may even be a little bit inaccurate because they're based on things that I've seen on Instagram, conversations we've had on the phone, but we've never even actually met in person even. And we don't really have like a deep, long history. We just have very interesting overlaps in our paths.
Yeah.
So the first thing I'd say is, I know you're married. I know that you have a child or children, and now I'm feeling silly that I cannot think if it's singular or plural. It's plural too. All right. So you have kids and you're married. I believe you guys homeschool?
We do. We have since they started school.
Yeah. Okay. Well, why don't we pause right there for a second? And because I want to comment on that. A lot of times people, think of homeschool and it sounds strange to them because they don't necessarily know anyone.
Right.
What's the thumbnail sketch on how you guys got into that?
It was something really that my wife really wanted to do, like from the jump, like when we even were like discussing having kids.
Yeah.
And at first I was kind of like against it because I was homeschooled for 2 years and I hated it.
Okay.
But it was for 7th and 8th grade and I was plucked out of my social scene, and so it was just me and my sister. And then like my parents worked, so they'd be like, here's what you got to do. And then they would go to work.
Yeah.
Whereas my wife, like her mom has like a, degree in science and stuff. So she would sit and actually like teach the kids. She's got 2 sisters. So she would sit there and actually teach the kids. And she's like, no, like I want to homeschool and like I want to do this. And I'm like, I was just afraid they're gonna be like socially awkward.
Sure.
But the more we like discussed and I started thinking about it, I was sitting there thinking like, man, there's like just reading different books and stuff, like history books. Is like, I love history.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't remember being taught about this in school. I mean, maybe I was and just didn't pay attention.
Sure.
But so like the more we talked about it, the more I was like, yeah, actually, like I want to, like be part of it. I mean, as much as I
Right.
can. But so the more I was just like, yeah, like let's homeschool. It's like a great idea. We can have more control over, what they learn and how much they learn, and then
Right.
also being able to go at their own pace.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, which
Yeah.
is actually working now.
When you have like a huge classroom, right? And I'm a former elementary school teacher, and I also taught middle school a little bit. I taught preschool. It's tough.
I've taught Sunday school.
Right. Exactly. And it's tough to maintain order and proper pace for everyone when everybody's kind of in their own place, and you can like certainly customize in homeschool. I also would like to remark that I always found I was a curriculum director for a couple of years, which was really cool. I enjoyed that, but I found that it was homeschool parents who were some of my best resources in finding textbooks and other things to use as part of our curriculum, because you guys are firsthand. You're in there with your kids. You're almost getting your own education in the process too. And so you
learned so much.
Right, and you end up knowing the stuff so well.
Yeah,
that's pretty rad.
Yeah.
So let me back off of that. So another place. I know you're into music. You're definitely into reggae. I can tell by your hair. You've got the fresh dreads. Do you call them dreads?
Yeah,
or locks? Yeah. Okay, right. So.
Or you can combine them and call them dreadlocks. Either way.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's dreads. Yeah.
So So I know all that, but what I especially found fascinating was two places where there's an intersection, and that is the intersection of hip hop. You're a rap dude, and like me, you found yourself in the Orthodox Church. Your spiritual journey led you to Orthodoxy, and so naturally, and especially there's not a whole lot of us in this country that I'm aware of. That are rappers who have come into the church and can nerd out over this stuff. Now, we do run into them sometimes. I met a deacon a few years ago, and we ended up spending like an hour talking about 80s and 90s Christian hip hop. So you never know where the.
I met one dude at my church who like I wouldn't have known except for he sent me like a video of like a Future Shock song.
Oh yeah.
His son was like, "Oh, I think he would like this," and then come to find out, like he raps and produces and stuff too. And I was like, "What?" So
that's awesome, man. And then beyond that, I do know that I believe you work at some sort of grocery or retail outlet in the craft beer section, I think. So. Yes. Now, did I miss anything? Did I misunderstand anything about your life that you didn't correct?
No. I mean, I guess where do I live? Where do you think I live?
Oh, you live near Portland. You live outside of Portland.
Yeah, I mean, ironically, my address is actually Portland proper, but it's really Beaverton, so it's probably like 10 minutes away.
Sure. No, I get it. I mean, I lived in Philadelphia, and I did live in Philadelphia proper, but I mean, where is the boundary of Philadelphia?
Right.
Like
right.
what? In fact, I created a website. It now doesn't belong to me, but I handed it over to the Clergy Brotherhood. But orthodoxphilly.com.
Oh, dope.
And it was like a resource for all the Orthodox churches in the broader Philadelphia region, and it was like, where do you draw the line? What is not Philadelphia anymore?
Yeah.
So I ended up just going by miles, which ended up looping in part of New Jersey and Delaware. Because when you have a big metropolitan area, it's like that, right? So
it's true. And sometimes the way the city lines are is weird.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I'm in Portland, but like this seems so rural. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So how long have you been there?
I was born in Phoenix.
Okay.
But I only lived there for maybe 2-3 months of my life. So I lived in Oregon my whole life.
Okay. Wow. And so I just assume if you like craft beer and you live in Oregon, you just drink Rogue all day.
You know what? No.
No.
You know, I mean, it's funny because for the longest time, the running joke as far as like beer prices was like, at least it's not Rogue prices, because they were just so high priced.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like, but you know what? I started actually trying more Rogue stuff, and I was like, you know, they're actually pretty good. I do drink a lot of Deschutes.
Oh, sure, of course.
You know, but you know, I do drink some Rogue. But yeah, it's funny, man, because like I actually really didn't start really getting into like beer and stuff until I was like 27.
Okay.
And I mean, I was a complete teetotaler. Like, you know, especially when I first got married, I was like, no, alcohol is the devil, you know, but I never actually saw it like rightly used. I've never seen it. I never just grew up in sauce. I mean, my stepdad he would just have beer. So, you know, but for me growing up, it was like, oh, party, right?
Right.
But then just kind of being around, you know, working at the grocery store. So I'm the beer and wine manager at a New Seasons market. It's a local market. And so like after just being around enough craft beer, I'd be like, oh, I'll just grab some to have on hand for people when they come over.
Sure.
And then I would slowly try stuff. And before I know it, it's like, oh, wow, I drank a whole half beer and I enjoyed it, you know? And then before I know it, I'm just like, I'm buying 6-packs and I'm like, oh, what's this barrel aged stuff? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know, it just grew from there. And I worked at a winery for a little bit too. So
that sounds amazing. What'd you do at the winery?
I started out just working in the tasting room just to get some more like knowledge and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I was the assistant manager of the department, so being able to work there kind of gave me the extra bump to get the manager spot.
Sure.
But and then I was able to do a harvest, so I was able to kind of like, you know, do barrel additions, punch downs, like you know, basically kind of see how everything was made. So when I could tell customer like this was, you know, this is a stainless steel fermented, you know, Pinot Gris, I could be like, no, I've actually seen the tanks, you know, pumped over, all that. So it's like it brings more life and reality to it.
Sure. No, that absolutely. So that is also like another reason why you make such a great co-host and a, you know, assistant or producer. We got to get like the right title for you, man. But like the part of the importance of this show, right, is Brews. Yeah, you know, it's the first name.
Right.
What were you about to say?
Well, I was gonna say, did you ever see I don't know if it was like House Party 1 or 2?
I've seen at least one of them, but I couldn't tell you which.
So there was one. Long. It was like Martin Lawrence is it, and he's a DJ, right? And so he's like talking about getting records. He's like, because the DJ is the producer. So I just always think about that in my head. So I'm just like,
I love it.
Man, we'll come up with something.
Yeah, man, and that was such a fun era in hip hop. That was when like you could actually have fun in hip hop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true.
Much of my career as a rapper has been to try to make hip hop fun again, you know?
Well, it's like that balance of like fun and like substance, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's like people draw a line, like it's got to either be, it's got to be either substance, so there's no fun, or it's like all fun and it's just like, you know. But I mean, hip hop started out as party music, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, let's keep it fun, you know, especially right now. People need a little light, you know.
Right. Seriously. You know, everything is already so heavy.
Yeah.
You know, when the pandemic was you know, the lockdowns and stuff were first happening, you know, I'm a big Death Cab for Cutie fan, and Benjamin Gibbard is one of my favorite songwriters, and he was doing a nightly little thing in his living room, and it was so great. But my wife asked me to stop playing it because it was like every single night he's just crooning these sad songs over and over again, and it was too much, you know.
Understandably.
Man, do you like Death Cab? You listen to
much of that
I'm
gonna be honest, I don't think I've actually ever, I mean, I might have heard him, but I've never listened to him.
Okay.
You know, it's funny.
Pacific Northwest, man.
I know, but like it's funny because like it's funny. Like, have you heard MXPX?
Oh yeah.
Like so like they've been doing kind of some of that stuff. Like Mike Herrera, the lead singer, he's been doing some of that like living room, like acoustic kind of stuff. Nice. So no, he had a side project called Arthur.
Okay.
Where it was kind of like more like, you know, I guess people want to call it emo or whatever, but it was kind of like that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, as I get older, the more I'm like always willing to check out stuff that I wrote off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
like you're a big Weezer fan, right?
Yes, yeah, totally.
So
We did
like
a whole episode of it, Mike
and dude, like it made me go back and listen to some of their stuff, and I always wrote their stuff off because when they came out, I was like strictly either hip hop, or at that time it had to be either like punk or metal, and I'm like, I didn't quite get it, you know. But the more I listened to it, I'm like, oh, like these guys are actually pretty good. Like I just remember like it was like what, 94. I don't know if it was their first album, but it was like the blue one.
Yeah, that's about right.
Like,
yeah,
you know, it was like the Mary Tyler Moore song.
Yeah,
you know, it's like I remember that album, and I was kind of like, yeah. But now I listen to it now, I'm like, it's actually same thing as Radiohead. I'm like, that's pretty good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that Blue album is just fantastic. One of my favorite records of all time. But you know, Pinkerton, it's kind of interesting. A lot of times for their second record, that's like the cult classic, right? And and like I think they even claim to like hate that record now or something. I don't know, but like that's one of my favorites as well. But I didn't get it like at first, and it was the same thing with Death Cab. I didn't like their music at first, and it wasn't until the Postal Service, which is also Benjamin Gibbard. But even then, Postal Service, I remember being on tour and the Don't Wake Me, I Plan on Sleeping In song was on. And I was trying to sleep in the back of the car, and I was really pissed that song was on. Yet one day it just clicked. Right. You ever get like that where it's like,
oh, yeah.
Man.
Yeah, dude. I mean, there's plenty of groups and or songs where I was just kind of like, I don't know who was it said, but it was like, you know, it's like, well, what's your guilty pleasure as far as like music? It's like, well, if you like it, it's not a guilty pleasure. Just like it, and it's okay.
Yeah.
And I think being, you know, older, you know, it's like I'm at that point where like I don't care if it's cool or not. Like if I like it, I like it's like Common said. He's like, if I like it, I like it. If I don't, it doesn't mean that I'm hating. You know what I mean? It's just there's some stuff I dig and some stuff I don't. Sometimes I'll dig stuff at certain times. You know?
Yeah. Well, you know, Michael Hyatt said this about books. He basically said, you know, if you're reading a book and it's just not gripping you anymore, just put it away and read something that will. And of course, you can't do that for school, right? You know, but right, but it's a true thing. And you know, I read a lot, and one of the ways that I'm able to read as much as I do is that I am willing to put the book away. And I think it's okay to not like certain kinds of music, like and certain.
Well, I mean, I mean, with everybody, right? It's like we could sit there and try to, you know, preach the gospel of hip hop, right? To people until we're blue in the face, but some people be like, I just don't like it, and that's okay.
Yeah,
you know, it's like it's not for everybody. Like I love reggae, dude. I love it.
Yeah,
you know, but there's some people who like they just cannot stand it, and that's okay. Like, you know, it's just one of those things that for me sometimes just give something the respect it deserves.
Sure.
But then you can keep it moving. Like you don't have to like it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, for me, it's like I try to be open to like enjoying things, but like, you know, I've just come to the point in time. There's some things where I'm like, okay, I might not buy the album, but like I'm not going to turn it off if it's on the radio. You know?
Right.
It's like there's some stuff. It's like, you know, it's kind of cool because like, dude, like my daughter, like she loves oh gosh, dude. What's her name? The girl who sings the bad guy song. You know, because I'm the bad guy. See, that means you're the same age as me. Cause you
I'm afraid I don't know this one.
Anyway, she's like she was a homeschool, but she's like a pop singer. She's done like a remix with like Justin Bieber and stuff.
Oh, nice.
But I've actually listened to some of her other songs. I'm like, this actually isn't bad. But I'm not going to listen to it on my own. Well, I don't think I would. Maybe I wouldn't. And maybe I would, and if I did, I probably wouldn't admit it.
Yeah.
But it's a way for me to connect with my kids. You know what I mean? So, but it's just like being open to like checking other stuff out. So
yeah. No, for sure. And I think there's always a temptation in every generation to be only married to your own generation's music.
Yeah.
You know, although I am chronologically a snob a little bit when it comes to music, especially when it comes to hip hop. And, you know, I think I want to be better than that. You know,
True.
but I will say this. I forget which member of the Beastie Boys said it, but there was an interview, and one of them, he said that he doesn't really listen to any new music.
Oh,
Because
dude, it was oh God.
Was it Ad Rock?
It was Ad Rock. It was on the Sway show.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, they don't care about me. He's like, and it doesn't matter. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, exactly. And what really impressed me about that though was he went on to say that he listens to old stuff because he basically said there's so much music that he hasn't discovered yet.
Yeah,
that's
man.
old.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually at the time kind of blew my mind because I was like, oh yeah, like just like jazz alone is one genre that I feel like I've barely scratched the surface.
Oh, me too, bro.
You know? And there's so much out there to be discovered. That's fantastic. All right, you pulling out a record?
Charles Mingus, man.
Yeah?
You know, I mean, if you want to talk some jazz, like that's a dude right there.
I got to put him on my list, huh?
Yeah.
All right, I will. I've been. I just started listening the last couple of weeks to Charlie Parker.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
That's been fantastic.
Yeah.
A lot of my impression is like he has a lot of like exciting music.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because like I like jazz, but sometimes like it can get a little too free for me, right? Where I mean, maybe it's coming from that hip hop, even like punk background, where you're locked into like that 4/4, right?
Yeah.
And so when it kind of gets off, I'm like, what is going on here? I do not get it. You know?
Yeah.
But I mean, but that's the stuff maybe to throw on like when you're like doing dishes, when you can kind of just zone out and you're not. Like,
for sure.
Attention. Like I'm not going to listen to while I'm driving, you know?
Yeah. No, for sure. For me, it's mostly like study music, man. Or like while I'm cooking, depending, you know?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Hey, so one thing we kind of skipped over is we're sitting here. You got a couple beers behind you that are on display, some Dogfish Head, but you're also sipping on something. So
yeah,
what are you working on tonight?
I'm actually the beer I'm sipping on is from Fortside Brewing. They're out of Vancouver, Washington.
Nice.
When I got this beer, I thought it was just a stout, but it turns out it's a Russian Imperial Stout, clocking in at 11.2%.
Nice.
So, you know, it's a nice little, you know, because out here in Oregon, it's like, you know, 30 degrees right now. And with the way my electricity in the shed goes, I have to either choose electricity or lights right now because otherwise I'll short out the house. So
oh, geez.
I'm going with light right now. I warmed it up though. So yeah. So, you know, I'm you know,
and you're warming up on the inside too now.
Exactly. You know, I brought a jacket.
Man, that's so funny because I don't know, it's like in the 70s here right now. It might even be in the 80s, and it's 9:40. Yeah, it's 76 degrees here. So,
and you got that fresh Adidas shirt too, man. I like that.
Thanks, man. You know, I've been actually trying to pick these up. I've been buying a bunch of them. The place to get them, man, is like Marshalls or like TJ Maxx. Like,
yeah,
they got them for like half the price.
Yeah.
And then you're dipped in that fresh gear.
Dude, I copped it was at Ross one time. You guys got a Ross out there?
Oh yeah.
So it was 20 plus years ago, right? Oh, excuse me. But it was a Brian Grant jersey. And nice. I got it at Ross. It was like $8 or something. I was like, and that's when he played for the Blazers, of course.
Sure.
I was like, yes. Sure. You know what I mean? So I was like, yeah, you know, I love getting all those, you know, I've gotten some, you know, some Clarks and some Adidas from those places. So, you know,
hey nice. Man, it's great when you can find it, you know.
Yep. Balling on a budget.
Absolutely. So I'm actually not drinking beer, but I am drinking a brew. I'm sitting here drinking my homemade kombucha.
I need to show you my kombucha.
Yeah,
my wife's been making it lately.
Yeah, we might need to trade some tips and tricks. This is very, very tart. I'm actually making a little bit of a face. I let it brew a little long, and then I added some pineapple juice, hoping that would balance it out. It's really good. Yeah. It almost tastes like a Belgian sour. So
ooh, yeah.
You know, so I've been drinking a lot of kombucha lately, just in general, but I've been trying to cut back on alcohol and overall caloric load.
Yeah, I need to do
And
that too.
and the big thing for me was, a couple of years ago was like seeing my own music videos. I did all these music videos, and I had convinced myself I was still paleo and eat and like really doing it. I'm rapping about CrossFit and all this stuff, and then I look in the videos and I'm like, that's not it. that's not
Yeah.
the figure I was aiming
Right.
for.
Right. Yeah.
And but it's tough, man. And I there's lots of opportunities in the line of work that I do. There's lots of opportunities for having beers, and the pandemic got me
Mm-hmm.
thinking maybe I should take advantage of not having as many opportunities.
Yeah,
But it's
dude.
so fun, man.
Dude, I know what it is because it sounds like I come home from work and I'm just like, all right, I guess I'll just have a beer,
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's one thing to maybe have a beer, but when it's like two or three, say like
yeah,
every day, it's like that adds up, and it's like I'm not as active as I used to be,
yeah,
and it's like
yeah.
and I think I gained like 5 pounds in the last couple of months. I was like, dang, bro. I was
Sure.
like, I need to start doing some sit-ups and eating some greens, man.
Yeah.
So
And during the pandemic, I lost 8 pounds during Lent, and then
oh, good job.
Pascha. Thank you. And then Pascha came, and we just had a big party for like a whole week, and
Yeah.
I put like that whole 8 pounds right back on.
Yeah. Dude, Bright Week will do that to you, man.
It was like, man, it came off more slowly than it went on.
It's true. It was probably the first 2 days you gained it back, man.
Right. Oh, so
You're like,
fast.
I'm gonna have some eggs with butter on them.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so tell me a little bit more of your story. Fill me in on some things that I missed, or some shades of things you'd like to shine a light on.
All right. Well, I guess as far as like say like hip hop, right? Like I got into hip hop. I remember getting my first Walkman when I was 8 years old.
Okay,
I got that, and I think it was
it's a pivotal moment.
my first cassette I ever got was Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince Rock the House.
Excellent.
So I think I might have gotten that in 89 or 90. That album actually came live, I believe. And then so I mean, everywhere I'd go, I'd have my tapes and my Walkman with me. I grew up, my brother listened to like metal and stuff, and I was like into metal. Like Guns N' Roses was one of my favorite groups. I
Okay.
still love them,
Yeah.
Um,
Not
but
hating on that.
I think is what really, nah, man. It's like, I think is what really grabbed me though about like hip hop though, was it was just so new at the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like I could relate to it more in the fact that it's like coming up with a lot of like I guess quote unquote metal groups, right? It's like
Yeah.
a lot of the you think of like hair metal for lack of a better word. It's like
Sure.
I didn't dress up, like I didn't wear like eyeliner. I didn't rock super. I mean, I guess I did wear tight pants in it, but they're ass so it was cool. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
But like I didn't wear like what a lot of these like hair metal people were wearing. So like I see like Run DMC, Beasties, I'm like dudes with like just jean jackets and stuff. I'm like, that's how I dress. Like I get that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what drew me in. And then of course, seeing like the house party movies and stuff. It's like I remember getting like Kid and Play, like Too Hype and Face the Nation, 88 and 91 respectively.
Yeah.
And so it kind of just grew from there. It was just I don't know, man. It was like you were saying, it was fun. It drew me in, and it was something that was so self-expressive, but yet so different than what like I guess I knew,
Yeah.
And
Oh, for sure.
you could say so much. It's like, and I think one of the things that was so big for me was like I know everybody talks about like Run DMC and Aerosmith, right? Like the Walk and
Yeah.
Split,
Right.
which
right.
I got that 12-inch right now.
Of course.
So I got that. But for me, that was more like our era was it was Public Enemy and Anthrax.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I remember seeing, I think it was like the bassist of Anthrax, like wearing like Jordans. I'm like, oh, like I couldn't afford Jordans. I could never get Jordans, but I was like,
Right.
I know those. And like, yo, those aren't like some like boots with studs or whatever.
Right.
So there was more of a relatability there, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like hip hop just, once it drew me in, like I didn't stop. I was just like, trading tapes with friends, dubbing tapes,
It was very similar for me. And I think it's interesting that you mentioned Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, because they were so instrumental on the way I write songs. And you can hear it in a lot of my songs where it's like very much storytelling. And of course, they weren't the only ones doing the storytelling, but like that's definitely the primary place where it influenced me. Mm-hmm. And like Girls Ain't Nothing But Trouble, Parents Just Don't Understand. Yes. Like these are the songs that like you can hear the influence on Royalty Check. I like that, the Merch Table song.
Dude, that's such a dope song, bro.
Thanks,
I like
man.
That.
and that's 100% like inspired by that type of storytelling hip hop.
Yeah.
And of course, like Slick Rick did it too. Snoop Dogg. Like this is not unheard of. But like even the fact that like Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince weren't afraid to smile or laugh, tell jokes. Like they didn't take themselves too seriously either. Lots of self-deprecating humor.
Mm-hmm.
Like Girls Ain't Nothing But Trouble has him like, running down the street half naked,
right. And he forgot his wallet.
Yeah,
man. He's such a classic. Yeah, man.
And like I love that. And
me too.
I want to hear that in hip hop, and it's few and far between when it happens, but it's magical when it does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But now what was the moment for you that like you wanted to become a rapper? What age, or was there like a specific moment or specific record that was like, I want to do this too? And DJ, you DJ, right?
I do. And I make beats as well, produce as well.
Yeah.
And I beatbox actually. I would love one of these days, I need to like buckle down. Like I just want to record a whole record like of beatboxing and just have different MCs over the beatboxing. Like Scratch from The Roots did something like that too. But I think it was late high school, and I think you're very self-expressive in high school.
Yeah.
And I remember I had like two little like Gemini XL100 like belt drive turntables that like you couldn't scratch on them because you touch it would skip the needle.
Yeah.
And but I remember just playing records on those, and I was like, oh, I think I can rap, and so me and a different friend, like I remember he was like the Dre 2001 like Chronic 2001 instrumentals, and so we would just like, rap over that.
Sure.
And I've still got like my very first ever recorded like freestyle like on CD. We were just so excited, like driving around. We got something on CD because it was also on tapes, right? It was always on the tape, but like a CD, like that was legit. And
I was excited about that too.
Yeah, bro. And it's like I remember listening to like my friend and like his cousin who was a DJ, dope DJ, actually DJ'd for Twista.
Okay, nice.
But like I remember listening, like, man, dude, like theirs sounds so dope, and like mine sounds horrible. But like I didn't know about counting bars. Like I've just
sure.
I mean, I remember like the last two bars was kind of dope. It was like like it's like I got some rhymes to kick on, grab my Mountain Dew and I sip on because I was heavily into Mountain Dew at the time. But it was just one of those things where I was just able to express myself more. And it's like I never really wanted to be like because I'm a drummer, so it's like I like drums. So it's like I've never wanted to be like a singer like in a rock band or anything like that. So like rapping just made sense to me. Like I just gravitated towards it. You know what I mean?
So we're both drummers. We're both rappers. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wanted to be a DJ, but I couldn't get my parents to, fork out the bucks on the equipment, and I didn't have the self-discipline to save up for it. But I used to sit there. I used to buy the rap magazines. I'd go down to like Walden Books or whatever and buy, Rap Source. Pages and The Source and Vibe. I never bought Double XL, but that's one of them. But I did read the other ones a lot, and they'd have like advertisements for like the whole DJ setup. I would just fantasize, you
Yeah,
know.
man. The DJ in a box.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now it's crazy. You can go into Guitar Center and like they got these incredible, you know, DJ gear sets, you know, like I don't know. I fantasize every now and then about doing that. I just don't have room for any more hobbies, and I don't really have the time to master it. So
yeah, I mean, dude, it's like I mean, that's how it is with me, man. Like right now, there's times I'm like, I used to play video games a lot, like when I was younger, but like I don't play video games anymore because I'm like, yeah, I beat a level, but what did I do? You know,
sure,
like I'll play some games with my son, you know, because like, you know, it's connecting, bonding, but I'm always like, I need to be doing something. So like I'm either reading, like making music, or you know, I'm trying to get back into like doing like, you know, visual art. Like I'd like to do icons eventually, like, you know, spray paint icons would be dope.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to be more creative with my time and learn more, you know. It's like, you know, I mean, especially right now, I mean, not to be, you know, a downer, but like the clock is ticking, right? You know, so I'm like, I want to do something. And so it's like, there's all these times it's easy to not do something, but I want to do something. So like taking the time, and that's why it's surrounding myself with people who like are doers. Like one of my best friends who I've known since 9th grade, like he finally got back into producing and stuff again, and like writing and stuff. So we're working on like an album together. Like, okay, like
nice.
sending me beats, like I'm writing, like, you know, and I'm slow at writing. And I think some of it because I'm left-handed. Which, you know, like I read this one book, like it was like the Left-Hander's Guide to the Universe or something like that. But it was Bob Dylan. He's left-handed.
Okay.
And it was saying he was really quick at writing music, like all the music, but slow to writing the actual like words.
Wow.
So I mean, and some of it too is like I'm a you know, perfectionist. Like I just don't think that quick.
Right.
I guess. You know.
Yeah. Shoot, you froze up there for a second, but I think we're good. Can you hear me?
I can hear you great.
Okay. Yeah, we got jittery there for a second, but it wasn't too bad. And we are back. Well, so where I first, I think the first I remember you coming on my radar was on a compilation as Nomadik Vagabond. And I'm trying to think of the name of the compilation, but it had something to do either with Elect Recordings or Sphere of Hip Hop, I think.
It was Sphere of Hip Hop. It was
okay.
You know, it's funny, because like I remember I did like one of the last orders from them.
Yeah.
Before they closed up, and I was like, oh, you know, because I think you'd send me a thing like they'd sent you a CD. I'm like, oh, they'll probably send me one too, and I didn't get a CD. I mean, they gave me a download like once I was on it, but yeah, it was a Sphere of Hip Hop one, and it was like Soul Design. That's what it was called, Soul Design. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's right. So it was pretty fresh. And what I want to point out here, though, that makes this interesting, and this is somewhere I want to go with this, is you. Sphere of Hip Hop is specifically a Christian outfit. So you're not just rapping, you're at least overlapping here with Christian rap, right? So so how did you get into Christian hip hop? Take me a little bit through that. Maybe take me back into what inspired you with specifically Christian stuff. And then like where your own journey of faith comes in. I mean, you know, maybe, I don't know. I'm not going to talk for you. Sorry.
No, please. So yeah, it's funny, man, because it's like, so going back to Kid and Play, right? I remember I don't know if it was just my dad just didn't like hip hop, you know, or if he was actually generally concerned about the content, right?
Yeah.
But I remember like, you know, at night, you know, whenever it was time to like go to bed, I'd always like break out my Walkman, you know, under the covers and listen to, you know, whatever. And sometimes it'd be radio.
I did it too.
Yeah, of course, you know, and it was nice too because it wasn't like an iPod. You didn't have lights, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like if you splurge, you had the equalizer, but you know, so I'd just be listening like a tape. I remember one time, like my dad coming in for whatever reason, and so he like saw I was like listening to something. He's like, "What are you listening to?" I was like, And so it was a Kid and Play tape, right?
Okay.
Which I'm like, dude, like that's happy rap. I mean, it's
Yeah.
completely opposite of like when you see the Kid and Play movies, you're like, what? You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
they had a cartoon, I thought, right? And then this is House Party. But
Yeah.
but I remember my dad being like, the next day, like you can either choose to like listen to this or listen to something godly. And I'm like, I want to listen to that. And then he ended up like throwing it in the fire or whatever. I'm like, dude, like there's a Kid and Play. Like,
Ouch.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's like next to MC Hammer. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
Oh no, I take it back. They were doper than MC Hammer.
They,
Know?
Well, I just real quickly though, like I don't hate on Hammer. I liked Hammer at the time, and
Dude, I had a Hammer tape. I'm not gonna front.
And sometimes I listen to it again, and some of it is as good as or better than I remember.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of it just doesn't sound the same to me now. But
no, I mean it doesn't age well, I guess, but
yeah,
for the time, like, I mean, I guess I'm proud to say I never owned a Vanilla Ice tape. I just
see,
with the exception of the Turtle song, I just didn't feel him, dude.
Oh man,
I'm like, but I did have a Hammer tape. I'm not gonna front, man. Like, I mean, giving a nod to Father Andrew, I did dig that song, Pray. You know what I mean? I dug that song.
Right.
But so I guess so it's what got me really into say like Christianers. I'd rather say gospel hip hop.
Sure. Yeah, whatever you want to call it.
But I mean, call it what you want, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like is what got me into that was just like, okay, well, like I'm basically limited to what I can listen to now. And so I had an uncle who was almost like my dad's litmus test as far as what I could listen to. So I remember being like over at his house one time, he popped in. I mean, he's really into metal, so he popped in Deliverance, which was like this like Christian like speed metal group, which is like, oh yo, like I didn't know like this could actually be. And mind you, there's actually a Christian like R&B group called Deliverance too. So, but I was like, my gosh, I know like Christian stuff could be like this, right? But then he's 3, and I was like, what's this? And so he popped it in. There was the song was like was it Hoodlum? Oh, dude, I got the CD right here. It was like Hood of Good or something like that, right? So it actually kind of had like a little like metal vibe to it. Sorry, you can hear me going through the CDs right here. Okay, yeah.
That's a sound I don't hear too often anymore.
Phase 3 right here.
Heck yeah, man. I bought that. I bought that record at a Sam Goody in Los Angeles.
Sam Goody.
Yeah, man.
Eternal, man.
That's right. And I was so excited because I had always bought SFC stuff at the Bible bookstore, right?
Yeah, dude. I mean, me too, man. So I mean, it was dope because, and so when I heard that record, I was like, yo, I had like that Hood's a Good had that metal thing. I was like, what? But then listening to the whole thing, I'm like, it was because it was like what 93, I think, maybe a little earlier.
I think that's about right.
Right, 92.
92.
So it's like I'm like, dude, it was just so dope, and it's like it was just so original. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the thing is like a lot of like, a lot of gospel hip hop. Sometimes it was just, I mean, this is always going to be the thing, right? It's like it was behind or it was kind of, or it was kind of, lackluster, so to speak.
Right.
Because you'd always go in and say to the Christian bookstore, it's like, well, if you like this, then listen to this. If you like this, then listen to this. I'm like, well, no, if I like that, I'm going to listen to that.
Yeah.
And so you try to find the original people, right? So, I mean, the first one I remember hearing, like, he had the single, it was like Stephen Wiley. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm Stephen Wiley and I'm rated
highly.
Yeah, and I come to rap religiously, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, like I'll just listen to Sugar Hill. I mean, props to him, but but so SFC was like, I had that tape on repeat, flip, because it was so original. And so then I got like Save Man in the Jungle, which was dope, and then Listen Up, which was before that, And even some of those groups were featured on different like metal records. There was like a Tourniquet album that had like a PID on it.
Nice.
Which was Preachers in Disguise.
Yeah.
So I was like, so it was kind of the whole rap rock thing, So yeah, man, it's like,
Did you ever listen to XL and DVD?
Look, I
Got it right
got
there?
that right here. I got that here too. Boom. What? See
Man,
that?
that's fresh.
Dude, like,
I saw XL in concert with SFC. He didn't have the band, but he rapped with them, and he had the afro and the afro pick in it, and uh, it was just an incredible moment in my like 13-year-old life. You know.
dude, I remember like my uncle had that tape or CD or whatever. And I was like, what is this? And like I listened to it, and it's like, because it's basically conglomeration of people, I guess, because like some dudes from the Crucified were on there.
Okay.
But
I never
yeah,
knew the story behind it.
yeah. So I think that's because like it was like Mark Solomon from the Crucified / Dave Sager was on there.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, man.
That's fresh.
Yeah. So it's just that was another one of those records too. I'm like, I mean, like, that was '93, but I mean, dude, he had one of those lyrics where it was like, what, like if racism was a man and I had a 12 gauge, I'd shoot him in the head in the Lord God's name. I was like, yo, you know?
Yeah, those are some hard bars.
Yeah. 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 So, but then it's like, going on hearing like gospel gangsters, right? Like
Yeah.
I was never really into like, like I didn't, dude, I'm not going to front. I've never listened to the Chronic in its entirety. Never
Really?
have.
Wow.
I've got Doggy Style on vinyl and tape, not on CD, and I haven't even listened to that in entirety because like I was just never into like G Funk, right?
Okay.
So the first Gospel Gangsters record I loved. The second one, it was a little G Funkier.
I gotcha.
But then I remember when they came out with like their one in '99, it was like, I Can See Clearly Now.
Yeah.
And it was like on Be Right, which was put up by Kirk Franklin.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I started listening to more. So it's like, and so like, and Mr. Solo, Memory Eternal as well. I mean, dude, he had bars, he rapped well, and he's very influential as well.
Yeah. No, I was definitely into them. Their earlier stuff, their first record especially. I did like Dr. Dre, and thanks to the Chronic and Snoop Dogg and all that, I got really into gangster rap for a couple of years in high school, and I regret that. I don't regret enjoying the music, but I just consumed way too much of it, and I think just real heavy negative messages. And then the Christian stuff that was in that vein, not so much the gospel gangsters. I think they were pretty dope, but a lot of them, with all the bucking of demons and all that stuff, I just thought got a little goofy. And I mean, I don't mean that to. I'm not trying to like diss anybody in particular, right? So like, I loved that record, but I think I've got theological problems with it, But
oh, me too, bro. Me too, bro. Especially now, there's certain records I cannot listen to anymore. I'm like, nah.
Sure.
And it's funny because it's like, it's just like I would listen to like, say, like Mobb Deep or Wu-Tang, right? There's some stuff like I can, take the best, forget the rest, right?
Yeah.
There's some stuff like I hit the skip button. I'm like, nah, like I hit the skip button. And so same thing with some like, Christian hip hop groups. Like I don't need to name names, that could be a discussion for later or whatever, but there's some things like I try to go back to and listen to, and I just can't anymore. Like, theologically, I'm like, it disturbs me too much, and like I can't do it. I'm like, no. And on top of that, even just going back to like, say, like bringing happiness and joy, right?
Yeah.
So there'll be some dudes later on. So especially in high school, it was very formative because that's when I decided to, actually become a Christian. Right.
Okay.
I was like, I actually want to make this decision and do this, because before I was like, okay, I grew up, in a Protestant household in Christianity, I would say Baptist-costal, for lack of a better word, but, non-denominational, but, but very, a very spirit-led, spirit-filled sort of, upbringing, which confused me because I was remembering like, well, but I thought like, it was Christ. So it's almost like now it's like speaking in tongues, all these things. So it's like, what, you level up. Like this wasn't, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it makes sense to me. I was like, but you're always telling me like, you know, Christ person. And now you're like, oh, well, you've got the Spirit. But I'm like, I don't get it. So it's like, you know, so now, you know, it's like listening to some of these groups, there's certain things where I'm like, I just can't, it just doesn't sit well with me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I totally get that. And of course I've always always is a fine word. For as long as Royal Ruckus has been around, I've been into theology.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had a line on an obscure record of ours, our second independent record, Love Us or Leave Us, where I imply that the guest rappers on our album were a little bit whack theologically. So I was like doing the whole rapper thing, kind of like dissing my own guess, but in a very polite way. And
right. You're theologically whack. I'm not inviting you back.
That's a good one. I should have used that.
Get up off my track.
But like, man, even back then, I had a few songs that, you know, I don't know, Royal Ruckus were finding ourselves, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, we had a few songs that were like more theologically oriented, and like in one of them, I was like capping on some Word Faith preachers and giving shout outs to Hank Hanegraaff and stuff like that. You know, but
shout
we weren't the
Hank Hanegraaff.
Right. Shout out right now.
Yeah, man.
So well, and he's a good one too for this, because like us, he found his way into the Orthodox Church in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And so I want you to take me into that. Like, how'd you end up in Orthodoxy from the Christian hip hop listening guy, the Baptist-costal, all that stuff in the background? How'd you end up there?
So also coming into like high school years, once again, one of my best friends, you know, I've known since ninth grade, he was really into reggae, right? And I remember like listening to some of that. I'm like, dude, like, I just don't see how you listen to this. Cause like, you know, we both would skate, right? And I'm like, this doesn't get me hyped to go skate. Like, I just don't get it. But he just dug it. So I ended up getting a couple. It was like a Bob Marley, it was like Uprising record, and there was like some budget Bob Marley tape.
Okay.
You know, the ones you'll see at every, you know, Goodwill or, you know, even Ross or whatever. It's like these compilation ones. And so
yeah, there's a lot of collections out there like that.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, once again, I was playing that on my Walkman at night, and I was just like, wow, this is great. You know, I'm like, it was super relaxing. And it was very soulful. But then also, like, the more I listened to it, there was so much scripture.
Yeah.
And I was
for
like,
sure.
Wow. And so I started really getting more into reggae, and like
we are completely frozen on this end.
You know.
Hey, we got to back up. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Let me freeze a little bit.
Yeah. So I don't know if it got recorded or not.
Okay.
But so we want to, gosh, I had the line too and I lost it. I was trying to hold it in my head. Well, back up about 15 seconds.
Okay. Rewind. All right. I guess we're gonna have to edit. So anyway.
It doesn't matter, man. You know, you can even leave this in. It's fine. It's just you know, we're talking reggae though.
Right. So anyway, so we listen like a bunch of reggae, like realizing there's just like so much scripture in it.
Yeah.
And so that's at the time I was really like getting into, you know, being a Christian, you know? And so these two were kind of parallel, like discovering them, like actually discovering Christianity for myself. Like I remember when I first got into it, I got like a composition book and a Bible, and I started just writing every single verse that had to talk about love.
Sure.
Which ironically, they were Pauline epistles, which later on in life I had a very big issue with Paul, or Saint Paul as we know him. Yeah. And I can come back to that. But and so it just drew me in. and it was so meditative, so calming, so spiritual, right? And so it's funny because it seems so spiritual without being forced, where sometimes a lot of gospel hip hop, it seemed more preachy, whereas reggae didn't seem preachy. It just organically flew out of the
Yeah.
music and the people.
Sure.
And you know, gospel hip hop maybe was preachy, rightly so, because they were trying to combat maybe, you know, 5%ers and, you know, all those kind of things. But I always gravitated when it came to, say, Christian hip hop, like the people who are just themselves.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's what I try to do, is I just be me. So if, you know, if I'm a Christian, it's going to come out in my music. If I, you know, enjoy beer, it's going to come out in my music. If I'm married, it's coming out in my music.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, you know, it's okay to maybe preach a little bit, but it's like, you know, you look at, let's say, like, you know, like Mos Def or Brother Ali, like both those cats are Muslim, but they don't just like preach, they just are
Right.
themselves. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
For sure.
So it's like, so like with reggae, it's like that's just part of it. And but
Yeah.
then that also, especially like especially when I got married, after I got married, and I was really starting to get into church history. And so, because being so influenced by reggae and then like Rasta, which I don't know how much you know about, like, you know, the Rasta belief system.
Enough to, you know, blend in at a cocktail party.
So I mean, so you know, just, you know, to give you the, you know, heterodoxy and orthodoxy version, right?
Sure.
You know, but basically it's kind of like, you know, the majority of Rastas believe that Haile Selassie, who was the emperor of Ethiopia in the 30s, he was the reincarnation of Christ. He was Christ come back. And he himself was actually Orthodox, right? And so anytime people would say things,
Right.
he would point them to Christ. But so because the fact that he would deny that he was Christ, they believed even more that he was.
Wow.
But
Life of Brian kind of situation.
yeah, and the fact, because of these, you know, these titles that the kings were given. So with him being emperor, he was given the title King of Kings, Lord of Lords. So that's, you know, revelation, biblical.
Right.
So it's like, oh, this is Christ, you know. Um, so it's like, you know, looking at that, and I'm like, okay, well, kind of coming at this crux of my faith as far as like, okay, well, what do I believe? Because I was always just given, you have the quote unquote Christian church, and then you have the Catholic church, who are maybe Christians. And so then I was like, okay, well, what's the difference? And why are we different? So then I started looking into the history of those, and then finding, you know, okay, well, there's this church in Africa who isn't part of either of these,
Sure.
who has been
What
separate
do I
for,
make of this? Yeah.
right, exactly. So it's like, they've been separate for years, and I'm like, and then you have people sending missionaries there. I'm like, no, they need to be sending missionaries here, like teach me, right?
Yeah.
And so like, and so then of course I was really into, like, you know, one of my big questions that everybody wouldn't question was like, well, the Bible is the final authority on everything. And I'm like, who says that? Like, where is that? Like, I didn't even see that within scripture, right?
Yeah.
And so looking more into, I'm like, the Bible, I was like, oh, hold up, there's all these other books that weren't in the Bible.
Yeah.
You know, in the Bible that we know, right? And so, you know, and so I started looking into that more, which got me more into church history. Now, to rewind a little bit, I remember talking to my wife. I'm like, hey, did you know there's this Orthodox church? Because like the first Orthodox I knew was Ethiopian Orthodox.
Okay.
And so my wife, I'm like, hey, do you know about this Orthodox church? And she's like, well, yeah, because she was baptized into the Greek Orthodox church.
Okay.
Because she, you know, had a
That's
yaya.
right. You told me that.
Yeah.
That's fresh.
And so I was like, but she was always given to it. She was always given it very ethnically, right?
Yeah, of course.
So,
that's
watching,
that's often the case.
Yeah. So you watch My Big Fat Greek Wedding. That's not much of an exaggeration. You know what I mean?
That is a charming thing.
I still love both those movies. I love them. But so since she was given to it, like
We make you
that,
Greek.
yeah, you Greek now. What you mean you don't eat lamb?
Exactly.
but but since that's how it was given to her, she it wasn't from a spiritual standpoint, right?
Yeah.
So she wasn't given like the like the doctrine of it, or the rubrics or anything of it.
Sure.
And so like my first brushing with like orthodoxy, like actual orthodoxy, not just through reading, was through her father's funeral, who passed away in late 07,
Yeah.
08.
Okay.
And so I remember going there, and it was this Greek Orthodox parish in Idaho. And I had two different feelings when I was in that church. Number one, they were, doing those prayers. And so the priest would say something, and then it was just the reader would say something. And I'm just like, man, like this is just dead. He's just reading, he's reading. Like, where's the spirit, right?
Yeah.
But then the priest came through swinging incense. And I'm like, yo, a church that burns incense? I can get down with it because I love incense. You know what I mean? I'm burning it all the time. And and so the funny thing is then her yaya passed away a few years ago.
Okay.
And I got to be part of that funeral. And actually the priest, he saw my prayer robe, my kombucha, and because my nephew had passed out during like before. And so he's like, let me see that. So he prayed on it from the church all the way to the graveyard. And so then he didn't have anybody to read. So he had me read the prayers for the service. And so like that was such a blessing, which is funny because like I know all those prayers to a degree, but like since I was in front of everybody, I was just like reading them. I wasn't chanting, I was just like reading them. He's like, okay, next page. But so it's two different experiences before and after. But it was really with listening to reggae and getting to try to figure out what this whole Rasta thing was, because they blended Old Testament and New Testament things so well, because like the whole like dread thing comes from like the Nazarite vow within scripture, as far as like not cutting the locks of my head. Like you look back, some translations with Samson will say like the 7 locks of my head, right?
7 lock.
Yeah.
Shout out to 7 lock.
Yes, sir. But so it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, these dudes like separate themselves and like do these different things. Like I want to do that. And so then just like I was saying, like studying church history more, I'm like, okay, well, you have this Catholic church, but then looking more, I'm like, then finding the Orthodox church that went, because everybody's trying to get back to the Acts church, right?
Sure.
I want the church of Acts. I want the church of Acts. Well, it wasn't just a bunch of people in their houses, so to speak, with their Bibles. And so even going back to like the, authority of the scriptures, finding out, like this actually came up with the church, and it was written by the church for the church.
Yeah.
So when you separate it from that, it doesn't quite make sense as much to somebody who's not in that.
Sure. Yeah. So you're kind of like having these realizations as you're studying, and so for you it was in part for the music. You had like the music kind of start drawing you toward this, and then you also had this stream of family influence. I mean, and there's nothing like an Orthodox funeral to leave an impression on someone. They're just extremely powerful. But then you're also nerding out and you're studying some books and some church history. Also, I think the whole component of, it sounds like we're attracted to the asceticism, and
very much
that is something that I think is very difficult for us to appreciate in the modern day, when everything is readily accessible to us. We have even our impoverished people are often in good condition relative to the rest of the world, right? And we have so much at our disposal. We do not have to deny ourselves and take up our cross. Talk to me about that. What's that been like for you, embracing that and coming into Orthodoxy, attracted to those elements?
Well, I mean, that was another thing even that attracted me with like Rasta was, shunning the world. A lot of these dudes would just, you know, want to go live off the land, right?
Yeah.
And just live off of what God has provided. And I'm still trying to figure that out,
Sure.
um, because I love my iPhone, you know.
Yeah.
um, but I think that's another thing too, is like, within the tradition I grew up in, it's like, they would talk about fasting, but it was never really something that was like part of it. It was
Yeah.
kind of like, well, okay, we're going to do what 40 days of purpose or prayer Jabez or something,
Yeah.
and not to kick dirt on all that, because it led me where I am.
Yeah, of
But
course.
but
Absolutely.
it's like, but it just didn't fulfill, like,
Yeah.
so that's where it is. It's like being hungry and someone's like, well, here's a Reese's peanut butter cup, and I'm like, no, like I need nourishment,
Right.
and
Yeah.
so it's like I just felt like I was constantly eating these Reese's peanut butter cups. I'm like, yeah, it tastes good for a little bit, but then I start getting all nervous and shaky and I want to take a nap.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's like that's what happened, is like I was just, it was always at the surface, and it's like, well, read more, like learn. I'm like, no,
Right.
I want to go deeper. And so you'd have these times of fasting, but it wasn't like this time of year built in. And
Yeah.
so it's like, it's like one of my best friends is Muslim,
Yeah.
and they have Ramadan, there's this fasting, there's praying 5 times a day, there's all these things where I'm kind of like, but y'all do this together. And so
Sure.
I
Right.
wanted something
It's
where
communal.
we're doing it yeah, we're doing it
Yeah.
together. So I'm just like, well, I feel like doing this. And so that's when I really started, and I think one of the big, my big shipwreck, so to speak, was like the church we went to before I became Orthodox was, was non-denominational, but I really felt like it was starting to go more Calvinistic.
Okay.
And,
I was a card carrying Calvinist
is
for a
what
while on purpose. So
dude, I'm sorry, bro. Like I've still got love for Pelagius. I know, he's hated on, but he still holds a place in my heart. But
he says
but
some
it's
true
like
things, right?
he does. I just really wish him and St. Augustine could get in a room and just have a beer and talk. I really
Sure.
think they might have
They
worked it
could
out.
have
Lord
figured it
willing,
out.
right? They could have figured it out. But but it's like, I think really is what it was, is like I didn't really know what I believed
Yeah.
until they
Yeah.
started saying certain things where I'm like, I don't believe that, but
Yeah.
what do I believe? And
Sure.
so that's when I had to step back and be like, okay, what do I believe?
Yeah.
And my wife did the same thing. She's like, so we took our little time in the wilderness, kind of figuring out what we personally believed, and we'd come together every once in a while and just talk about it. And I remember her asking me like, well, would you ever be interested in checking out like a Catholic church? And I was like, well, there's some things I think I don't agree with, but like I want to check it out. Like I
Sure.
at this point, like I'm not closed off to anything. I want to check it
Right.
out.
Right.
Um, I
You're in a
never
period of
did go to
seeking.
the Catholic. Yeah, exactly. And like I never did go to the Catholic church, which I still might try just because I want to check it out. But I remember, listening to some different Orthodox stuff, like on ancient faith and stuff like that, and I'm like, wow. And like I don't know what led me there. I don't know how I got there,
Sure.
but I was like, man, this makes sense. And so I had her listen to it, and she's like, wow, this is how I think.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was so beautiful because it gave us a common language.
Yeah.
Because her and I many
Right.
times would try to express ourselves to each other, but we weren't speaking a common language.
Sure.
So we would just get frustrated and get mad or walk away or whatever,
Yeah.
because we just didn't understand each other. We were trying to communicate, but we just didn't understand. And so with Orthodoxy, and my wife puts it the best, like, every denomination of, the Protestant church and Christianity has like this aspect of God, right? Little brushstrokes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Orthodox is the fullness. So it has, the justice of God. It has the mercy of God. It has the goodness. It has everything that you see, the spirit, right? It has all those things you experience in different churches, but whole.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when we experienced that, it was, bro, it like I remember the first liturgy I ever went to, I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
I remember,
It's bewildering the first time.
bro, and it's funny because it's like, or the first church I looked for, I'm like, okay, we're gonna do this Orthodox thing, looking for Ethiopian Orthodox.
Sure.
Couldn't find one. So the
There's
closest
not as
one,
many of them around.
no, they're far in between, especially here. And so the closest one was, a Greek Orthodox church, which is actually across the street from the Nike World headquarters.
Okay.
And so I'm like, all right, well, let's check it out, right? So it's just her and me. Like, we didn't have the kids then. I mean, we had children, but they didn't come with us.
Right. I got
And
you.
so, we went in and it was like, okay, stepping into the narthex. So for people who don't know, that's like when you first step into an Orthodox church, there's a little room before you go into the nave, which is the sanctuary.
It's kind of like a foyer, like an entry room,
Yeah, exactly. And so there's people lighting candles. I could smell a little incense. I'm like, okay, this is bringing me. I'm like, so I just didn't know what to do because I didn't want to offend anybody or do anything wrong.
Right.
So like we just walked in, found some seats, and somebody next to us, I had a liturgy book, and she's like, well, we're here. I'm like, okay, but like I just wanted to experience it, and I could smell the incense, of course, and that drew me in. And then seeing all the icons. And I didn't have a lot of like your typical, hang-ups that some people would have as far as like, say, icons and things like that. Like I didn't think they were idols or anything. It was just like, I don't know who I knew who Christ was and I knew who the Theotokos, who Mary was. Like I could recognize.
Right.
But everybody else, like I didn't know, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, well, y'all must be important because you're on the walls. Like, big things.
Somebody took the time to paint you.
Yes,
Must
exactly.
be a big deal.
Yeah, exactly, right. And so we just stepped back and just was observing. And so even when it came to communion, my wife was like, well, do we go up? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, let's just stay here, but like afterward, like everybody was like, who are you? Like, what brought you here? Everybody's so interested in like our journey, right? I'm like,
sure.
So we just kept coming. And so many people from like minds, certain aspects or whatever. It's so funny because I've met so many more people within the Orthodox Church who have the similar journey and like mindset that I had than I ever did. And that was one of my prayers always was like, God, like bring me my people, bring me somebody like me. Yeah. And lo and behold, he's like, all right, boom, here you go. Yeah. It's not going to be easy, but here you go.
Yeah.
It's
kind of amazing, because it is really like all kinds of people come to the church. Everybody from the blue collar to the white collar, from the crunchy hippie to, I don't know, the Lululemon yoga woman. I don't know.
Yeah,
everybody.
Yeah, man. Super clean cut suit to linen pants.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, Orthodoxy looks a little different from one place to another, and some communities are a little trickier. We even have some communities out there that almost look or behave like the Amish, maybe not quite that extreme, but it's a very, very big church, very diverse church. And I want to say too, it's kind of funny. Cookbook used to always give me crap and say that this was an Orthodox podcast. And I would say, no, it's not. It's kind of like you said about music before, it's just going to naturally come out. But, I want to be clear too, for anybody that's listening, that's not Orthodox, we're not here to shame anyone or anything like that. We're telling our story.
Yes.
At our stories as we understand it. And also, and speaking of Cookbook, like if you listen back to the episode that I did with him, he gave me some pushback on scripture, and we actually got to engage, and I would, welcome that with future guests to have some people that might want to engage and have a different perspective than you and I have.
Well, and I think that's the thing too. It's like, And I think that's why I never got into the whole Calvinist thing, right? Because like I don't want to know. People are always like, oh, save sinner, like damn not. Like I don't care. Like, dude, I
yeah,
suck. I personally, I suck,
yeah,
and I need to do better just as a person loving my neighbor.
yeah,
So I'm not worried about who's going to hell or not. Like I just need to love my neighbor. So I don't care who you are, what you believe. Like let me do better.
yeah,
And so I think that's things when people start trying to, I mean, and as we all know, well, not we all, but you and I, like Bishop Callisto, he's got the lines like, we know where the church is, but we don't know where the church is not,
yeah, yeah,
so it's like, it's not for me to say who is outside of the church,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
all I know is like, I'm called to love my brother as
yeah,
myself. So
yeah.
whatever you believe, like, let's kick it,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the things I had the privilege of doing the last few years, and probably will continue the next few. Although we'll see, this pandemic is weird. At the Greek festival that my church has, we've started an info booth where we sit there with some pamphlets and different things. We just answer questions,
Yeah.
because there are a lot of curious people. And the common questions we always get are like, are you guys Catholic? Are you guys
Yes.
Jewish? Right, yeah, exactly. Yes, Catholic, yes.
Right, right, right.
uh are you guys Jewish? And then we also get like, is your Bible the same as mine? And so all these are like really
Yes,
interesting
and
questions. Right. Exactly. So I
right.
love having these conversations.
Yeah,
And
me too.
we've just had, I mean, it's just been a privilege to be able to do that here in my local community in South Florida. And we actually have had some people convert in part through that sort of thing, not like that day.
Right, right.
But they end up getting interested and come back for services. But other people, maybe just engage, learn a little bit, get educated, and go home to their own community. And I think that's a beautiful thing too, to be able to talk to people of goodwill and like explore ideas and be able to share.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like just try to be a dope person. Just try to be a good, a
Yeah,
cool dude. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
It's like, and I think that's really the thing is like, I mean, it's hard because to a degree, yes, we all have our agenda, but at the same time, like I'm trying to not have an agenda. Like I'm
yeah,
just
yeah,
trying to
yeah,
be, and I think it's hard because like there's times even at work, I'm like, even with the society we live in, it's like, God is so shunned no matter what form he takes, like just religion, period, to a degree. It's like, it's so shunned where it's like, oh, well, I got to leave early, like I want to say, cause I got to go to church. Right. But,
yeah.
I'm like, I got a thing I got to do. And I'm like, dude, like, I'm not preaching. Just, I got to go to church.
Sure.
Like work's cool. I'm getting paid to be here, but I'm paid by the hour. So I got to dip. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's really the thing as far as like, you know, just trying to
I just
be,
let my freak flag fly.
oh,
I just
bro. And, here's the thing is the type of, especially like, so like maybe, I don't know if this is a mutually like, drummer thing, but it's like, and of course we're both MC too. So I don't know if that like,
sure.
nullifies it, but it's like, like if I go to a party, dude, like I'm an introverted person, right?
Oh,
So
really?
like the first thing I do is like okay, just let me get something to drink, and then I'm gonna go find your books and movies and music and look through those. Like, I'm not really
Yeah,
trying to talk to people. Like if you get
yeah,
me one on one, obviously I won't shut up. But like in a group of people I don't know, like I don't shine. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
So it's like, but like at church, sometimes there's like inquirers will come up and all of a sudden they see me and they're like, "Hey, what's up?" And I'm like, "Oh," because they're like, "Oh, hey, what's this dude with dreads doing? Like, what's going on, man?" I'm like,
Hey, man,
you know,
you can make an impression on people. And one of my good friends, he was seeking, and he was in Bible college even, and he wasn't sure which direction he was going, but he figured it was Catholic or Orthodox. And it was literally because he happened to come to our church first, and a woman was friendly to him and introduced him to someone else in his approximate age range. That boom, Now he's one of our faithful. He has studied, but like the door was opened by simply being available and being kind and saying hi. You know, and I think probably as someone who's walked in for the first time, how it is when there's strangers coming in for the first time, and they're like their eyes are glazed over. So to have somebody like reach out to them and just be friendly, so.
Well, and it's like even be able to have somebody who maybe looks different than everybody else maybe, and so they're like, oh, like I can let my guard down around, like this is the person I want to talk to. So I don't know,
let's bust some stereotypes.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I mean, I like reggae, so maybe I fit into the stereotype, but
sure.
But I don't know. I want to be a better person.
Yeah. Well, hey, we could go much deeper, and we will actually, because we're going to have more episodes in the future, and we're going to start bringing in some people to join us, and we'll be able to have some three-way conversations. Is there anything else you want to get out on the table before we start wrapping up? Tell us about yourself more, or
man,
anything we didn't hit.
I mean, I think the longer this goes, the more people know, and we'll let people know how we do.
All right, that sounds good. So do you want to drop any socials?
Actually, so to rewind, my actual government name.
Oh yes, did we leave that out?
Yeah, my government name is Clayton. Okay, I was baptized Moses after Saint Moses of Ethiopia.
Nice.
And so I go by Nomadik Vagabond. Actually, I think it was from a Metallica line, because they have a line when the song is like, "Nomad Vagabond, call me what you will."
Okay.
I'm like, yo, that's kind of dope. Nomadic Vagabond. So I kind of just flipped a little bit. Nomadic Vagabond on Instagram. That's all I'm on, because that's all.
We jumbled up there. Tell us after the Instagram. Say us again.
That's all I'm on.
Oh, gotcha. Well, I knew that, but you said something else and we lost it.
Oh, I was like, that's all I got time for.
Don't you just love it when that happens, when like you're about to hang up, you're talking to your grandma, you're about to hang up, and then it cuts out. You got to call back to say goodbye,
Exactly. Right.
Well, one of the things I didn't mention. Are we? Hello.
No, we're good.
Oh, good. Okay, so one of the things I didn't mention that would explain a lot of this is there's a tropical storm brewing, right outside my state, sort of actually on top of me tonight. So, I think you might have had some connection issues at the beginning, but I think I've been the one with the connection issues on this end.
So it's your fault,
right? I don't even know what this tropical storm is called. Like, I usually try to know their names, and
I think it's Hurricane Jamey. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's actually my nickname at work with a couple of people.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we do work related to insurance and hurricane damage. So when I go marketing and the work picks up, they call me Hurricane Jamey. So.
Awesome.
So speaking of names, though, so I'm also Chunjay from Royal Ruckus. I'm also Jamey Bennett, and I don't necessarily mention this on the show, but my baptismal name is Athanasius.
Okay. Word.
And I usually contextualize that. So
I think you've dropped that in a rhyme or two.
Oh, that's true. I did. I actually even
call me Athanasius. It's me against the world.
That's right. I love that line, actually. Because that's a historical thing. A lot of the listeners may not realize too. Athanasius contra mundum. Athanasius against the world. There was he was exiled like 6 times or something like that. I don't know the exact number, but in the end, he was triumphant. and the faith that he defended, even though he didn't see it triumphant really in his lifetime, was triumphant afterward. And I just admired that. And so when I was coming into the church, Athanasius made sense. So Athanasios at the Greek church, Afanasi at the Russian church. So I almost changed my rap name to Afanasi at one point.
Oh, that'd be dope though, dude.
I know. I still think about it from now and then. Maybe in a post-Royal Ruckus era. But for now, we are in the Royal Ruckus era, at Royal Ruckus Official, or just at Royal Ruckus on all the things. You just got to figure out which is which, as I like to say. RoyalRuckus.com is a really great spot to go and to share with other people. The merch is kind of in flux. I actually need to take the beard oil off. I should mention that. Sorry. Yeah. It just wasn't selling fast enough, and I was afraid it was going to go rancid, and I only want to sell quality products. So I used up what was left of my batch just the other day, and now I'm using commercially.
Do you rub it all over your body?
I just rub it on the beard.
Oh, not like armpit hairs or nothing like that?
No.
Oh, no. Okay.
Do you moisturize your armpit hairs?
I mean, a little shea butter. You know what I mean? A little coconut oil.
Hey, I started. Yeah, we haven't talked about beard care. You got a sweet beard.
Oh yes, okay. I have a very more gray than red now.
Yeah.
Actually, those are the two things I did want to mention, because the two things you do after on the podcast, right? So beard care and favorite hip hop song, right?
Yes.
So beard care.
This is where we need to go.
I started getting. Got this beard oil from a monastery that's 3 hours away in Vashon Island in Washington. So I got I think it just says like monastery beard oil, but it's a sandalwood one, blend of like I think olive, maybe a little castor, and some other oils. So I've just been using that, try to kind of rub it in more, so you don't get that beard dandruff. I probably should like shave it more, because my wife tells me I look homeless. But maybe comb it. I got a nice wooden comb, and I don't use combs, clearly.
Dude, the comb is a game changer for the beard. I'm telling you.
Dude, I used to comb it, but then I'm like, I'm gonna let this lock up too, and I'm getting those like St. John like curls at the bottom. But I'm like, maybe, and then it's getting annoying having something so huge wearing a mask, because then it's like on your mouth all the time. So I'm like, maybe I should just trim it. So.
Well, if people look, for those who bought the physical album of Summer of the Cicadas, my beard in most of the pictures in there is like or at least in a couple of the pictures, like a 1 year beard.
It's beautiful.
And like it looked almost like I was trimming it straight, and I really wasn't. I just combed it every day with a good beard comb, and it just grew in straight. Yeah,
dude, mine gets mad scraggly. If I trimmed it, it would look good.
Yeah,
but no, I remember that. But it was beautiful, man. Now you're just, got the insurance salesman vibe.
Hey, man, the beard comes and goes too. I actually just trimmed the beard the other day, and it's feeling real good. I like it in this reasonable amount. And the crazy thing is, people think this is a big beard. Like the average person would classify this as the bearded guy. Like,
Not if you moved out to Portland, bro.
Really?
Oh man, they'd be like, "That's all you got?"
I'm in South Florida. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, it's cold out here.
I mean, you gotta have something. Like everywhere I go, though, like at least, maybe not everywhere. I was gonna say, but I tend to have the best beard in the room. And like best by best, I mean fullest.
Yeah.
Most places, but maybe that's changing.
I mean, you know what? I mean, it's youthful looking,
Yeah.
I don't see much gray in it, so good on you, I guess.
I don't know. I don't color it though.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Well, hey man, it's been great getting to know you a little bit better, and I think it's going to be a good time over the coming months as we put out more episodes and have some good conversations. Brewsbeards.com is the website. And yeah, we're also on Instagram at Brews Beards.
Yes, sir.
Man, that's so exciting. That's so
I
true.
know. Big things, man. Big things. And also, my favorite hip hop song.
No, I hadn't
Okay.
forgotten.
Okay.
Because
Then
that's
go
what
ahead,
I was
talk.
gonna say next.
Okay.
All
I jumped the
right.
gun.
What's your favorite hip hop song, man? Of all time. Game changer.
I have to say, probably my favorite one that I can just put on repeat is "What They Do" by the Roots.
Yeah.
I
All
mean,
right.
that one.
What is it that makes that song so special?
It's just the lyrics, just the whole vibe of the song, dude. I could just hit repeat all the time. I
Yeah,
mean, that's what 24 years old, and it holds up today.
man, that's fantastic. I got into them a little late, so I don't know. When I first heard them, for some reason I wasn't feeling it. I don't know why. Objectively, I should have loved every second of the Roots, but getting into them a little later, there's plenty, like we said earlier, plenty of back catalog to go through. You know,
Yeah.
love it, and when I lived in Philly too, I think you have to be down with the Roots, man.
Yes, sir.
All right. So once again, I am Chunjay from Royal Ruckus, also known as Jamey Bennett, and I'm here with,
Nomadik Vagabond.
and this is Brews, Beards, and Shipwrecks, and now we are going to roll with the Roots.
Peace.
Cool, man. Little rough around the edges on my part.